Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Fix Game Week 38 live stream. My name is FPL Nacho, and I cannot believe I'm saying this right now, but it is the last live stream of the season. It has been a tough old season, but full of massive highs throughout the season, and it's been amazing to share that experience with you guys. So while it is so sad for this to be the last live stream of the season, it has also been amazing to share it with you guys throughout. So it would be great to see some usual faces in the chat. We have so much discussed in this live stream, guys. Of course, being the last game week of the season, it's so unique approaching a single game week in isolation because we don't really need to view anything beyond this point. So really, strategy's out the window. It's all about that single transfer that you're bringing in. There's no long-term transfers in place. It's all about that one move in isolation. So I know there's going to be a lot of talk about things like points hits, which we will get onto, but also we're going to be covering the usual sort of stuff using the Fantasy Football Fix site. And that's going to include things such as the algorithm points, current plans for myself going into game week 38. Going to be looking at game week 38 free hit teams. So those managers that are lucky enough to actually have that available still. Going to be covering some of the players that I would own and a quick draft that I would go for if I was free hitting in game week 38. And then we're going to be looking at the usual bits as well. Things such as Salah replacements if you are inclined to sell him. And of course, opening the floor up to you guys for any questions that you have. So as always, if you can get us to 50 likes, that would be massively appreciated. I think we've hit it on every single live stream. A little bit of a sort of benchmark we like to hit every video. So it'd be amazing if you guys could continue that trend. And what a fitting way to end the live stream on the last one of the season. I can see some regular faces in the chat. Rio, hope you're doing well. Hi Nacho, I need your advice. Is it worth a -4 to replace Zaha with Mount? Now Rio, points hits is going to be a really popular conversation, I think, throughout this live stream. So my thoughts right now on a points hit is usually in the course of a season, when you do take a points hit, you have 3 or 4 game weeks for the player that you're bringing in to kind of repay the favour. So the emphasis isn't fully on that player. Now, the 2 players that you're talking about, Zaha and Mason Mount, if I was to look at both of those in isolation, I would say that Mason Mount is likely to score more points than Zaha. Zaha is playing against a Man United team that rested for 2 weeks. Ten Hag is now basically going to be the manager. He's going to be at Selhurst Park. And while Man United, I'm not expecting to be world beaters all of a sudden. I am expecting to see a little bit of an improved Man United, a bit more of a motivated Man United in the last game of the season. So I'm not expecting huge things from Zaha. However, for you to take a -4.6 to bring in someone like Mason Mount is really putting the emphasis on him to deliver the goods. If you think about it, let's say the minimum Zaha is to get 2 points. We need Mason Mount to basically get a 6-pointer, which is, I think, I say I do FPL Blaze stuff, but it's going to be what, a 2-pointer and an assist and a bonus point to just get you to break even. So yes, I like the move for a points hit, but you really need to understand the kind of like what you need Mason Mount to deliver for you. And it's worth mentioning, based on the press conferences that we have seen, likely rotation and time given to some Chelsea players that haven't had it. So Mason Mount might not necessarily be playing the best Chelsea squad available. So we'll come and touch onto that more as it goes on throughout this live stream about points hits. But right now, I'd probably be more inclined just to stick with Zaha. If it was a free transfer, I would absolutely pull the trigger on that one. FBL Bateman, hey Nacho, what a rank. Congrats. Thank you very much, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Inti and Jerry saying Kane and Vardy, or Vardy and Tony, or Tony and Kane. Okay, so I think first and foremost, Harry Kane has to be in the conversation right now. Now, the press conference from Tottenham has said that Harry Kane was struggling with a bit of illness, but Conte is fully expecting him to be available for game week 38. And we know the importance of Harry Kane in this Tottenham team and the position that they're in right now, chasing top 4. I think Harry Kane could have one leg and he would still be rolled out onto that pitch ahead of the other players that they have available. So Kane has to be included in the combination that we're talking about. And I think based on the amount of money that you're spending, I think Kane and Tony is the best possible combination for you. I think Jamie Vardy has massive upside, but started in both games in the double game week for them. So I do think that Vardy's game time could be a little bit at risk. So I think therefore Kane and Tony is the best combination for you, because the 4 million that you're probably saving going to Tony could help spread the cash elsewhere in the rest of your squad. And Cheekster, obviously a friendly face. Hope we're doing well. Dropped a like on the live stream already. You have absolutely smashed it this season. Huge, well done, mate. Thank you very much. And for tuning in, week out. One of the regular faces on this live stream to go with the others that have been joining in. So massively appreciate the support. One more question, guys, and I'll jump into the live stream. Mohammed is saying, is it worth to get Son, Vardy and Sessegnon for a -8 over Salah, Richarlison and Cash? This -8 would make my team very strong, as I have a very good midfield and defence. Okay, so Mohammed, I think this again comes back to the discussion about really what these players have to do to deliver for you. Now, Salah could be a little bit of a different conversation, because if we are thinking that he might be ruled out for game week 38, then the points hit is less detrimental to your team, because you're basically sending a player with guaranteed 0 to bring in a player that you like to think is going to get a minimum of 2 points. So that points hit is only effectively a -2. I hope the maths make sense there. So again, really do like the moves. I think you're upgrading each and every department. However, I think personally, with Richarlison and Matty Cash, I think Salah should be your preference first and foremost, moving him away if we do think there is injury news about him. So I think Mo Salah to Son is definitely locked in for you. I think you could still roll with Richarlison and Cash. I think otherwise, I think maybe starting Richarlison and doing Matty Cash to Sessegnon to kind of lighten their points hits is probably the route that I would go for. And then if you get close to the deadline and you're sat there thinking, right, my rank, I need a little bit of differential in my team, I'm willing to take the risk, then I might make that move and go for the third option of getting Jamie Vardy in as well into your team. So guys, as I mentioned, I'm going to be dipping into the chat as frequent as I possibly can, because of course this is the last live stream, so I want to touch on it as much as possible, because that is the important thing here, is trying to answer your questions. But I want to quickly, selfishly, just show you guys my team going into game week 38. This is only going to be a few minutes. I'm going to show you kind of my plans going forward, and then we can forget about myself. So here is my current team going into game week 38. So very weird to see my team. For those managers that have probably had the same experience, I was celebrating a James assist yesterday, but then thinking to myself, oh Christ, I had a free hit. So I didn't actually have Reece James, but he's back in the team now. And with the team I have one free transfer, 0.9 million in the bank. And right now, I'm pretty happy with the team. I think Newcastle could easily go to Burnley and get a result there. The back line, I wouldn't change any of those. Yes, Reece James might get rotated, but I'd expect him to play. I think he's a big part of that Chelsea team, even if they are planning to make rotational changes. But there's one glaring obvious potential risk in my team, and that is Mo Salah, who's currently sat in the centre of that midfield. Now, the press conference that we had from Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp suggests that there is a chance that Mo Salah could play. But again, conflicting sentences, with him saying things like, but he could come off the bench. So the Champions League is an absolute priority for Mo Salah and Liverpool. And I think on that premise, unless we get any information or early team leaks, I think selling Mo Salah for my team personally is the right move to make. Even if he does start, I think there's a real solid chance that he could come off after 50, 55 minutes to give himself that rest and ample time ahead of the Champions League final. So what would I personally do with Mo Salah? You can see in my team right now, I have Son. So I've covered the basis with Tottenham. So I have two kind of transfer plans right now. The first up is being the simple sideways move from Mo Salah to Mane. Now you can see above my team is the projected points. Prior to the Salah team, I had 60 projected points. Now I have 63 with the likelihood of bringing in Mane. Now, is Mane my favourite option? Not necessarily. I think there's a big risk on Mane potentially if Liverpool find themselves 2-0 up and get word of Man City also being 2-0 up. That I think Mane is probably one of the first players to come off that pitch for him being rested for the Champions League final. But of all the players who are going to be featuring for Liverpool and who I expect to start, I think Mane is the best option available. I love Luis Diaz as an option, but if I had to go for one and money was no object, then Mane is definitely the option I want to go for at Liverpool. Now again, the caveat of this option one is selling Mo Salah and instead of going to Mane, to go for Kevin De Bruyne. Now again, Based on the projected points, that gives me another 3 extra predicted points, which very difficult for me to ignore right now with this team. And the big thing about Kevin De Bruyne is that we know that he is likely going to play 90 minutes in that game. With no games to concentrate after game week 38, he is going to be the catalyst in that team to get things going early on in the game. And I think with the recent returns that he's had, obviously a bit disappointing in game week 37, I could see a big return for Kevin De Bruyne because I'm anticipating a really comfortable victory for Man City. So Mane versus Kevin De Bruyne is the obvious sideways move for me. There's no real reason for me to go for Luis Diaz or Phil Foden's because if I do go down this strategy, I don't need that cash in the bank and I prefer the premiums rather than the second string players. Now, alternative 2, and again, guys, let me know in the chat what your thoughts are on this sort of process, is to go down the points hit route. Now, I really don't like the points hit route. And as I mentioned before, it's because we only have 1 game week to play. So the time that can repay that -4 is very, very minimal. It's only 1 game week. So if I was to go down this route, then the options that I would be considering right now is to upgrade Mo Salah to Mason Mount of Chelsea. Again, rested in game week 37. The assumption is he will get solid game time in game week 38 against Watford. And the second transfer will be getting rid of bloody Weghorst because that guy has killed me week in, week out, and bringing in a certain Mr. Harry Kane. Now, I'm going to bring him into the team minutes because it would have to be for Rafinha, of course. Now, the problem with the -4 is, as I mentioned, you have such limited time for it to be rewarded to you. So I'm selling a bench player in Weghorst, but I'm bringing out someone like Rafinha. Do I doubt Rafinha could get a decent haul? No, I think he could do well. But the reason why I like this direction is it gives me coverage in departments that I don't currently have, and mainly in Chelsea. I think Mason Mount's the best route in that Chelsea midfield, absolutely, with him being rested in game week 37. And I think Kane could be a bit overkill on the Spurs attack. I'm going to have Kulusevski, Son and Kane. But I really do think that this Norwich game is a Kane game. And I think he's selfish enough to forget about Son and go for goals himself. So I really do like these moves, but I'm just weighing up whether a -4 is even going to be worthwhile. And whether just doing a sideways move from Salah to a premium will pay me back, because I think that's probably the logical move to make. And at the rank I'm at right now, I think a -4 is probably not worth risking it. So of all the two, I'm likely to do Mo Salah to Kevin De Bruyne or Mane. But if I feel a bit more maverick, I will update you guys later on, closer to the deadline, to let you know what direction I'm going. But let me know in the chat, guys, what your thoughts are. What route would you go to with the team that, if you had my team? It'd be really interesting to know what your thoughts are, because I think rank is a big part of it as well. If you're in a position where you're not fussed if you finish 100k or 50k, then I think that -4 option is absolutely the route to take, 100%. But I think in the position I'm in right now, you know, I haven't been these sort of high, lofty ranks before. I do think that probably going down that direction of just going the safe sideways move is probably the right pick. Right, guys, I want to touch on some more questions here. Loop Epic saying, Cash and Zaha to Alonso and Kulusevski for a -4. So, Lupe, I think this is the problem here with the Chelsea team is, based on the Tuchel press conference, he said that he wants to give game time to players that haven't necessarily had it. And that suggests to me that potentially the likes of Saul could get some game time. Now, does that mean he gets deployed as a left wing back, as a centre mid? I'm really unsure what that means. But I do think that gives a bit more doubt over bringing in certain Chelsea players, and I think Alonso probably falls into that category. So for a -4, I'm not really big on making that move to go for somebody like that. And in regards to the Kulusevski move, I think I probably would rather go for Mason Mount rather than Kulusevski. I think Kulusevski is a brilliant option and probably has one of the best fixtures, but I think Kane and Son are much more the priorities in that Spurs team. And Kulusevski, while he's doing well, underlying stats don't suggest that he's in anywhere the same sort of plane as the likes of Mason Mount, who's a very similar price point. Now, Torgier is saying, Cancelo to James or Richarlison to Tony? And of those two, I absolutely would do Richarlison to Tony. Cancelo playing in that Man City backline, I really do think that they are in a great position to keep a clean sheet and win that game. I think it's going to be massive motivation for them. And we know Cancelo has attacking potential, absolutely. I think with the Richarlison to Tony move, first and foremost, Richarlison we saw actually limping a little bit in the back end of that game. And I'm only certain that he stayed on because of the position that he was actually in the game state, being 2-2. We needed to stay on that pitch. I think with the Tony move, brilliant fixture against Leeds. They have a lot to play for, a bit of history in the Championship that they do have. So this isn't going to be a game that Brentford just rock up and are on the beach. They are going to be firing to basically put Leeds down into the Championship. So absolutely would do the Richarlison to Tony move if I was you. DJ Hammer, hope you are doing well. And Amty is saying, thank you for answering my question. You're the only YouTuber who has answered my question. You made me really happy. Thank you so much. It means a lot. Really appreciate it, mate, for first and foremost getting involved in the live stream, and secondly, I'm glad that that has helped you out. Hopefully it's good advice, and it'd be great to see you in next season's live stream along with everybody else, and all the best this game week. And Jack Maloney saying, hello Nacho, I am 13,100. Should I be protective of my rank or go all out for a top 10k finish? I'm 10 points off top 10k. First and foremost, Jack, brilliant rank, and I think again, the perception of top 10k is changing every single year. I really do think that we're in a position right now where even if you're in the top 50k or even top 100k, that is still a brilliant achievement because content is becoming so readily available and there's so many more active managers that if you finish in the top 10k, then that is a brilliant achievement in itself. So I think first and foremost, Jack, you've got to look yourself in the mirror and say, is top 10k going to be that much more rewarding for me, or is top 20k the similar as top 10k for me? So I think if you have that kind of precedent on you of top 10k is exactly where I want to be, and I don't think you necessarily have to be crazy differential. I think you just need to hit that captaincy right. Don't be too crazy with it. Don't be going for rogue options like Mahrez, for example, at Man City. I think you just need to be certain with your captaincy and go for probably the safer pick. And then look at the rest of your team and maybe go for a sideways move, which isn't necessarily crazy differential, but just gives you that slight upside in your team. But again, Jack, I would need to see your team to get a rough understanding of what move you can make. But keep doing what you're doing. You got there for a reason. I think you just need to understand whether top 10k is, the pedestal that you really want to hit or not. That is all. And Mexi saying, Tony or Sessegnon for my free transfer. Please help me so I can sleep. So I think that this is a really good opportunity with that sort of question to jump into the algorithm points for game week 38. Now, again, you're looking at two players there that are very differing positions and obviously offering very different things to your team. So first and foremost, who are you selling? If you are selling a premium defender or a decent defender, then I need to kind of understand who you're moving from to Sessegnon. Tony, I really do think is probably the more upside move for you just because he's on penalties, for example, in that Brentford team. Now, if we're looking at the predicted points here, you can see that on screen for game week 38. Reece James being top of the pile. But if we're looking at the two players that you did mention, first and foremost, Sessegnon, predicted to score 4.7 points. Again, been a brilliant form recently. I believe about 6 big chances created in the last 10 game weeks. Been basically their guaranteed left wing back in that Spurs team. And against a Norwich team, which we know aren't really offering much going forward. So he could be on for a big haul if he continues the chance creation that he is, alongside potential clean sheet. But again, it's all about who you're selling. Tony, on the other hand, is predicted to score 5.1 points. So one of the better forwards to own in game week 38. But again, it's all about who you are selling ahead of game week 38. So let me know that in the comments. It might make the picture a bit more clearer for me to give you a bit more information on it. But I'll leave that up on screen, guys, for you for the projected points for game week 38. But you can see there, Reece James massively out in front on 8.9 projected points with that amazing fixture at home to Watford. And Alonso on 7.2 projected points. But again, if you read too much into the Tuchel press conference, there is some sort of assumption that there is going to be a little bit of rotation and game time given to those players that haven't featured. Does that put James and Alonso into that bracket? I think that makes them a little bit more dangerous and maybe in a position where probably if you have them, you hold, but you don't necessarily go buying them at this time of the season just because of the risk of rotation in that Chelsea team. And again, the premiums in Kevin De Bruyne, Son and Kane right up there, some of the best assets. And again, I want you guys to almost take a mental screenshot of this projected points here, because I can already foresee a lot of heartache going into game week 38 on captaincy. And we need to understand that whatever direction you go in with your captaincy, unless you are going for somebody like, I'm not sure, Amarty at Leicester. If you are going for a Kevin De Bruyne, a Son or a Kane, you need to remember that whichever option you pick has absolute concrete evidence that they are a great captaincy option. I think, honestly, you could flip a coin on all of these. And if we do get into a position where you own Son and Kane, you go for Son and Kane's the one that goes big, you just have to accept that it's one of those game weeks that unfortunately you were at the wrong end of some bad luck. And it's the case sometimes. There's no clear, evident goalkeeper, captain that we should go for. So just have that kind of mindset going into this game week, and hopefully you can be on the right side of luck going into game week 38 with your captaincy choice. Apologies, guys. Ahmed saying, Kane or Kevin De Bruyne, I have Son. So Ahmed, I think, again, it's all about who you're selling. I need to know who you're selling Kane for, and I need to know who you're selling for De Bruyne. But if you already have Son, I do like the combination of Son plus KDB for game week 38. And our algorithm also suggests that as well. 1250, Captain Salah. I think right now, because of the recent press conference, we're not sure about Salah's game time. I think there are better options available other than Mo Salah. And again, the ones that I touched on, the Spurs pair and Son and Kane, and also Kevin De Bruyne, offer guaranteed game time, brilliant fixture, and importantly, you can sleep at night putting the captaincy on them. So I would probably not go for Captain Salah unless we get guaranteed information that he is starting in game week 38. FPL Bateman might even roll the transfer. Oh, God. I don't know how to break that to you, Bateman. Hopefully you don't roll the transfer. But your team could be so strong that you don't need to upgrade it. And that's a very, very luxurious position to be in. And Eddie Casey saying, should I do a -4 to get Maddison and Vardy for Salah and Broha? Also, will Havertz play? So, first and foremost, with the Havertz situation, I really don't know whether he is or isn't going to play. If he is fit, I can see Tuchel giving him some game time, absolutely. Lukaku started the last 2 Premier League games. So I think if Havertz is in the squad, he will absolutely get some sort of game time. Now, if I was to do a -4 to do Maddison and Vardy, I don't think you necessarily need to go the whole hog with both of those moves, in particular for a -4. I think if your squad can handle it, I would look to maybe just bench Broha and do a Salah sideways move to somebody else. So a Son if you don't have him already, a KDB if you don't have him already. If you're really wanting to go on the Leicester moves, then I probably would recommend doing that -4 and going for that direction. But I'm just not big on the -4 right now as we speak. And Mads is saying, good evening, I need to take a risk to come further up the ranks. Is it too risky to take Saka and Kane out, Mane and Jesus in? And Mads, yes. I think there's other directions that you can go in and other ways you can play your team. I think, yes, of course, you are going a bit more differential, absolutely selling Saka and Kane out to Mane and Jesus, but I really don't see massive upside there. Now, the reason you're probably selling Saka and Kane is because you're viewing both of those as highly owned players. And you're looking at both Mane at about 4.5% ownership and Gabriel Jesus at whatever ownership he is as potential differential punts for your team. But it doesn't really add up for you. And the main reason being is because Saka's playing against a Everton team that are coming off a massive high after getting confirmation of them staying in the Premier League. And Arsenal needed a guaranteed win to give themselves any chance of playing in the top 4. And Saka being one of their most impressive and influential attacking assets. And then you're selling someone like Kane, who has the worst team in the league, to bring in someone like Mane, who, if Liverpool are 2-0 up and Man City are 2-0 up, will inevitably come off after 60 minutes to be rested for the Champions League final, knowing that the Premier League is all but lost. And someone in Gabriel Jesus who really we can't pinpoint the game time. So the big thing I'm trying to say here is, while you could bring in Mane and Gabriel Jesus and they both could get 2 10-point hauls, you're selling 2 people that even if they get 6 or 8 point scores in Saka and Kane, it's going to really, really hurt your rank. I think you could attack in other departments in your team without selling someone like Saka or Harry Kane. Because I think if you miss, you're going to really miss, and it's going to really affect your rank. FPL Freeze is saying, sorry, FPL Feezy is saying, would you transfer in Tony/Son or Diaz/Kane? Of the two, I would go for Tony and Kane. Tony and Kane. If of the two, I would go for Tony/Son. Main reason being, I think it's guaranteed game time for both of those. We know that Harry Kane, slight illness going into game week 38. I absolutely expect him to start, but if he is slightly under the weather and they are cruising Tottenham, there's a chance he could come off. I'm not saying there is. With Diaz, I think that, again, same principle applies. If Liverpool know that the league is lost, I think Diaz is an integral part of that Champions League final team. He could come off early as well. I think in regards to Tony and Son, I'm just a bit more confident on their game time. And the reason I prefer Son is because an extra point for a clean sheet and an extra point for goal makes me go for Son rather than Harry Kane. So hopefully that helps you out on that one there. Right, just going to dip away from the questions a minute just to come into two sections of the live stream. First and foremost, transfer activity going into game week 38. Now, I just want to give you a quick overview in the Fantasy Football Fix transfer analytics section, just to show you the top 5 transfers in, transfers out, might just give you a bit of an idea on what direction the market is going in. And importantly, I know a lot of you are sat with Mo Salah right now. I can show you the underlying insights on Salah and where managers are going to, just to give you some maybe inspiration. So you can see there, top transfers in. Absolutely no surprise that Son is top of the tree on 155 transfers in. Then we have Bowen, KDB, Kane, and Luis Diaz. Now, I'd probably say of all of them, Bowen is probably the most surprising, being second. However, he has been in phenomenal form of late. He's been flying under the radar massively because of the double game weeks that other teams have. And with West Ham, basically nothing to play for, it could be a really fun game for them in game week 38. And if anybody's going to do well, it is absolutely going to be Jared Bowen. So I'm not against the Bowen move at all. Now, for the transfers out, 5th most transfer out is Matty Cash, followed by Coutinho, and that is because a lot of managers piled into Aston Villa ahead of their double game week and are now seeing an away game against Man City, and rightly so, looking to move away if they can with their free transfers. But Mo Salah being most transferred out player. Now, if we come into the transfer combinations for this game week for Mo Salah, we can see the number 1 transfer combination is Mo Salah to Kevin De Bruyne. And again, I really do like the Kevin De Bruyne move because you are getting guaranteed game time and a player that is in the absolute peak of his powers right now. Now, no surprise, Son, 31% transfer combinations, but I would argue that more managers currently own Son, therefore they don't need to go sideways to Son because they already own him. I know Kevin De Bruyne's ownership is a lot less than Son and becomes a bit more of an attractive option once you already have the Spurs boy. And the third one is going to be a sideways move to Luis Diaz, slightly pipping Mane, 3% more transfers. I think managers may be trying to open up the -4 point hit, go for the Luis Diaz option and then free up some funds to maybe upgrade their forward to someone like Harry Kane. But otherwise, some managers, 5%, looking at going to Mane to have a big game week 38 haul. And we have seen in the past that historically Mane has had some big returns in game week 38. So guys, next up, I want to quickly show you a free hit team that I have built for game week 38. Now, remember, I'm not on a free hit game week 38, so I haven't spent, days and hours grueling over this. But if I was to free hit as of right now, this is roughly the kind of direction that I would go in. So this team is predicted to score 68 points. So I'll quickly run through them, and then I'll just give you a quick, overview of the team on the decision making for it. So Ramsdale in goal. A back 4 of James, Trent, Cancelo and Sessegnon. A midfield 4 of Saka, Luis Diaz, Son as captain and Mason Mount. And a front 2 of Tony and Harry Kane. And a few bench players as well, just in case. Eriksen in that Brentford team at home to Leeds. And Ben White for a bit more Arsenal coverage with that decent fixture at home to Everton. So I think with the defender and with the goalkeeper and defenders, we've got a real nice coverage of all the teams there. We've got Ramsdale between the sticks against an Everton team, which I'm expecting to be coming down off that massive high. So I am expecting a decent clean sheet potential for Ramsdale. And I think he's the best option if you are going down the Arsenal route. I think you've got the save potential, obviously. And I just don't think any defenders right now jump out in the Arsenal team unless you are going for someone like Ben White. Now, James, we've mentioned, is a potential rotation risk for that Chelsea team if Tuchel does try to play the youngsters. But top of the charts for our projected points for game week 38 makes it almost impossible for me not to select him. So he is in. Trent, Not really any need to explain that one there. Cancelo, I still think remains the best Man City defender. And Sessegnon is arguably one of the gems of Game Week 38. We're going to touch on him a bit more later on. But I think if you're looking for a cheap enabler in defence, Sessegnon is absolutely the route to go for. A great fixture against Norwich, which offers clean sheet potential. 6 big chances created in the last 10 game weeks. And really growing as a player. And at 4.3 million, just gives you the chance to afford some of these bigger premium players in the squad. And I don't really need to convince you anymore to maybe consider Sessegnon in your team. I think he's a brilliant enabler if you need that in your side. Now for the midfield four, and I think Son picks himself, rightly so, because the ownership and captaincy alternative that he does provide. Mason Mount has kind of selected himself as the obvious candidate for the Chelsea midfield slot. I think him being rested in game week 37, and we think it's just a rest, means that he is going to be getting plenty of game time against his Watford team. And I think really, while we're chasing the best asset, I think we need to chase the asset that's going to get the most minutes, because Watford right now are looking woeful defensively. And I think if you get the player who is on the pitch the longest, it's probably going to be the best player. And I think Mason Mount ticks those boxes there. Now, Luis Diaz easily could have been Mane, but being about 3 million cheaper, I think it just opens more doors in this free hit team. In particular, upgrading some of the defence or even the bench players, just in case you do get unlikely rotation that you didn't predict. And I like Luis Diaz. I think he kind of falls into the same bracket as Mane, as absolutely in their starting 11 for the Champions League final, but rested in game week 37 and needs to be fresh going into the Champions League final. So I think he starts, and I think he looks great ahead of game week 38 as an alternative to the premium Mane. And last up, Saka, someone that's survived in my previous squad if I was to free hit. And I think, again, the narrative right now is Arsenal dead and buried, but they're playing against an Everton team that are now, fine in the league. They have nothing really to play for apart from just enjoying themselves. I think that could open up to a free scoring game, and who else other than Saka to be the man there. So I think Saka is still a brilliant option in your free hits. On the front two, Harry Kane, I think has to go in there. I know a few people want to go punty on Jamie Vardy, which I don't think is necessarily a punt. But what I would say is he started the last 2 league games. Is he going to get 90 minutes in the third? Potentially, but I'm just saying there is a potential rotation risk there with him, with Daka and Nacho waiting in the wings. And Tony, last up, again, that home fixture against Leeds. Managers need to remember that there is history there between Brentford and Leeds off the back of the Championship season. They have plenty to play for. And Brentford right now are one of the informed teams of the league and looking really good offensively. And Tony spearheading that with penalties, I think makes him one of the best Brentford options available. So that is the free hit team that I would consider. Projected to score 68 points. Let me know in the chat, guys, what your thoughts are. What kind of players would you change? Is there any premiums or budget players you think is missing in the free hit team? I'd be really interested to see what your guys' thoughts are in the free hit team. Right, let's have a look at what else we got in the chat, guys. Mark Smith is saying, so would you be the most likely in a free hit squad value is 102 million? Don't think Mount will play. So who would be the most likely in a free hit squad value? Okay, so hopefully that has helped you on the free hit team there. Diego Gittins is saying, if you have Zaha, do you keep or sell? I think if you're in a luxury position, you look at the rest of your squad, you're in a great position. Then you can do a sideways move from Zaha to somebody like Mason Mount potentially. But if you are looking at a points hit, I would stick on Zaha. I do expect Man United to win that fixture, mainly because Crystal Palace coming off the back of a double game week. And Man United basically resting for 2 weeks. Ten Hag at the helm now. He will be at Selhurst Park watching. So that little bit of extra motivation for Man United, which they didn't necessarily have. And while I'm not expecting him to blow Crystal Palace out the water, I do think that there is a chance that Man United could be comfortable winners here. But if anybody in that Palace team is going to damage Man United, it is most likely going to be Zaha. And importantly, on penalties as well. Mina saying, Nketiah for Tony, Jesus for Kane. Don't think you necessarily have to force those moves. I think if you can do Jesus to Kane as a sideways move, which I guess you can looking at Nketiah being upgraded to Tony, I would just do the Jesus to Kane move personally. I think Nketiah don't think is going to be dropped. Obviously, if anyone is an Arsenal fan here who knows a bit more information, then absolutely let me know. But I think Nketiah is a solid hold with that game there. So I think you definitely hold Nketiah if you can. Jack, here's my team Nacho. Schmeichel, James, Alonso, Trent, Saka. Jack, what was your question previously? Apologies. You're on about protecting your rank or not. I think your team looks solid. I would go for Schmeichel, James, Trent, Alonso, Saka. I think the only thing I would consider is probably just looking to upgrade Richarlison. So I think you could do a real nice sideways move from Richarlison to someone like Tony. Going to give you that little bit of differential. And I think it's a real nice move to propel you. So probably go for someone like Tony for Richarlison. Is Richarlison to Vardy worth a -4? I'd probably say not. But if we do get a bit of news of Richarlison might not be available, then I think the -4 needs to be considered absolutely. Saxena is saying, help us decide between Maddison and Bowen. Of the two, well, looking at our projected points, I think that's an important one to come to just for a bit of reference. Again, guys, take a screenshot if you need to of this free hit team. If it is any help to you, it might be woeful. You never know. So looking at our projected points, we need to remember Maddison did feature in both games in their double game week. Maddison projected to score 4.7. Bowen projected to score 3.5. So I think if we knew that Maddison was going to feature and get game time, then I think with their fixture at home to Southampton, on paper, is probably the route for you to go to. So yes, I probably would just go for Maddison, but wait until that deadline, get a bit more information. If we do get any sort of team leaks about potentially Leicester rotating, then you might want to go for Jared Bowen, because I think West Ham are less likely to rotate their team as we speak, just because they didn't have a double game week where their players are likely going to be a little bit struggling. And again, guys, if you can support the live stream, being the last one of the season and get us to 50 likes, would massively appreciate it. FPL Phillips, hope you're doing well, mate. Sorry, it's already been asked, but thoughts on Lukaku for game week 38? Yeah, so I think a few days ago, Lukaku absolutely was one of the best differentials for those chasing in their mini leagues, and I think that still remains the case. However, with him starting both games in the double game week, I think we need to get a bit more information, hopefully that comes out before the deadline, about the status of Havertz. I think there's no way Lukaku plays 90 minutes. He very rarely plays 90 minutes in a Chelsea shirt, and I think there's going to be a situation here where either Havertz starts and maybe Lukaku comes on for the last 20 minutes, or Lukaku starts and Havertz comes on for the last half an hour, for example. So I think Lukaku right now is falling more and more in terms of an FPL option. I think I'd rather go for somebody like a Jamie Vardy. But if we do get information that Havertz is ruled out, then I think Lukaku comes right up there as a brilliant option. But as we speak, I just wouldn't consider him right now. I think there's too much risk. And the comments that Tuchel's made about giving game time to youngsters just kind of makes that even more of a risk bringing him into the teams. Daniel, hi Callum, what should I do to stay first in my mini league? I have a 50-point lead, want to take out Salah. Well, Daniel, first and foremost, 50-point lead looks really, really healthy. And I think you should, fingers crossed, be all good for that first spot. Now, I first and foremost would say, if you have Salah and you don't have Son, you go sideways to Son and potentially put the captaincy on him. If you already have Son, then I think you need to weigh up, first and foremost, if you're focusing on your mini league, what second place and third place has. If they both have Salah, then of course we're doing a bit of premeditate. We're going to be kind of anticipating their moves there. But I think if you have Son, you go sideways to KDB or you go sideways to Mane. I don't think you need to take a point sit and give them that opportunity to catch you with a -4. So I think look at the rest of your opponents who are close to touching distance. If they have Son and you don't have him, easy sideway moves to Son. If they have a very similar team to yourself, then I'd probably just go safe. Go for Kevin De Bruyne, get that guaranteed game time against a team that are going to be massively motivated to win the league. That's probably the route that I would go for right now. Danish is saying, if United gets a player like Van Persie of 12-13 season and a Frankie de Jong and Ronaldo will play like Rooney did last season, can they qualify for Champions League next season? Well, it's exciting times with Man United with Ten Hag coming in. I think he's got a lot of work to do. Do I think he'll get Champions League next season? I think there's probably still better teams out there, and I think they need a big overhaul with the team. I think Rangnick's already said that as well. So Champions League's going to be a push, but I think they still have the core players there to do it. They have winners in that team, but they're going to have to really step up because I see Tottenham emerging as a better team. I think Arsenal will improve, and I think Newcastle as well will take a lot of points off teams. So I think there's going to be a lot of improvements by everybody in there throughout the course of the season next year. So it's going to be all about who invests better going into it. Right, guys. I just want to quickly move on to another section a minute before we touch on some more questions, because I'm going to really open the floor to you guys going a bit further. Right, guys, apologies. I want to just quickly cover some differentials. Apologies. I'm going to come to the questions. Don't worry. Please stick around. Do not leave us. And if you can get us to 50 likes, we massively appreciate it. So, differentials. This is a few that I would consider going forward. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not huge on differentials unless you're in a position where you really do need to make that kind of move if you're chasing mini leagues. So these are very different differentials here. So Mane, I think at his ownership right now, I believe he's under 5% and makes him one of the easiest Salah sideways moves if you need to chase rank in mini leagues or overall rank. So I think Mane is a brilliant option. You can see they're projected to score 5.2 points. And I filtered this by the last 10 game weeks. Again, slightly skewed because some players here would have had double game weeks in their game weeks. But you can see the minutes played if you need to get some reference there. But you can see Mane, solid underlying stats, 4 goals over that period, 24 shots, 3 bonus points and 1 big chance created. But someone who I think has been really doing well and flying under the radar is Harvey Barnes. 66 points over the last 10 game weeks, 4 goals, 5 FPL assists, 30 shots, 6 bonus points, and 3 big chances created. He has been flying under the radar recently and been a really, really good asset. So I think if you're looking for a real out there differential to the likes of Madison, Vardy's, and even the other options available in midfield, I think Harvey Barnes could be a brilliant option. And although he's projected to score 3.3 points this game week, I think that's more on the assumption that there could be rotation in the Leicester front three. I think if we get some sort of knowledge that he is starting, I think he's a brilliant option going forward. Now, Eriksen, slightly more, I would say, underwhelming pick. This is more of the assumption that Brentford could really go big against Leeds with them being in such great form recently. But at 5.6 million, opens up some potential budget for you to go elsewhere if you're doing a -4 move. Underlying stats really aren't on the same level as the likes of Harvey Barnes. FPL points-wise, goals and FPL assists are below him. But he's someone I definitely would consider. Now, Sessegnon is absolutely the one that I would emphasise on you guys targeting if you're on a free hit or you're looking to do a defensive move. I think his price really shouldn't be considered right now if you're thinking, oh, he's 4.3 million. I much rather should go for a big player in the Chelsea, Liverpool or Man City lineup. I think Sessegnon has the potential to be right up there this game week. Looking at his underlying stats here, 39 FPL points in only 545 minutes played. You can see there, FPL assists 3, 5 shots, 3 bonus points, and importantly, 6 big chances created. So that's more than like some Mane, Barnes and Eriksen over the same period. And with that fixture against Norwich, I think he's a brilliant budget enabler for your transfers going into game week 38 if you are looking to do maybe a points hit to your team. And last up, and it really isn't a differential team without Mahrez appearing somewhere, is it? Now, again, for Mahrez's standards, the underlying stats here really aren't as overwhelming as I thought they would be. Now, again, if I filter it by average per game, this might be a bit more of a reference to Mahrez because he has played significantly less minutes than the 4 other options available on your screen. And you can see that over the last 10 game weeks, 4.8 points per game, 0.4 goals, 0.3 FPL assists, 2.8 shots, and 0.6 bonus points per game. So when we actually come to that filter and we really look at it, because we know he's such a rotation risk, when he gets game time, he's a phenomenal asset. Now, would I pick Mahrez over the likes of Luis Diaz, Mason Mount? Help me out here, guys. Even Phil Foden? Probably not. But if we really are chasing, guys, and you want to go big, then I think Mahrez is a decent option for you, but you really need to carry that risk of him getting rotated in that Man City team. So I'll leave that up there for you guys to check out. You can see what is going on there, and let's get back into the questions to see how I can help you guys. MG saying, should I sell Havertz? I think this is a perfect example of waiting right up until the deadline to get as much information as possible. If we know that he is fit and raring to go, I'd be almost tempted to keep him. I would be very tempted to keep him. But if we don't get any information about that, then I think you sell. you go sideways to Mason Mount or to some other direction, and you accept that you're probably in a position right now where Havertz is probably going to get game time and the -4 is not worth selling him. Eddie's saying, I've already asked about Vardy and Maddison. There's my team. Nacho, Schmeichel, Alonso, Cancelo, Robertson, Shaw. Okay, you mentioned about the sideways move. I really think that your team's pretty solid. I think your front, Kane in isolation as your forward is good. So I would probably look at just doing the Salah move, and I would be looking to bring in Son into your team. And I think that's a real nice move there. If you are really worried about the Havertz game time, then yes, I think a sideways move. And you could even do maybe Salah to Son and then Havertz to someone like Luis Diaz if you want to go a different direction. Or importantly, Mason Mount. Is Mount a good captain differential? Yes, I like him as a captain differential, absolutely. Dans, you obviously looked similar to Nacho Monreal. Is it the reason behind your username? Yes, it actually is. It used to be FPL Football Advice, but got called every single live stream. You look like Nacho Monreal. Done a bit of a Google, agreed that, yes, I probably do look like him, and it's worthwhile changing my name to him. Worth mentioning, I'm a Chelsea fan, so it's even more of a kick in the teeth when I have to put an Arsenal profile picture every single week. But yes, it is mainly because of the similarities in looks. George 100, Kane plus Barnes or Vardy plus Diaz. Now, I have promoted Harvey Barnes, and I would probably go for the Kane Barnes option there and hope that Barnes gets some game time in that Leicester team. So I really do think he is the form player right now, alongside the likes of Maddison in the league in the budget midfield option. The Pyramids are saying Salah to De Bruyne straight swap or a -4 for Diaz and Kane in for Richarlison and Salah. Wow. Okay, right. I need to get my head around that one. Okay. For a -4 for Diaz and Kane in for Richarlison, I probably would go for the straight swap Salah to De Bruyne. I think points are very hard to get back into your team. The one thing I would say, and a slight caveat, if we get information that potentially Richarlison is going to get rested because he was hobbling, and your squad bench doesn't kind of allow you to have anyone come in, then I think the -4 is probably worthwhile then. So I would keep an eye on team news as we speak. Maddison, and I've covered that one, covered that one. Apologies, guys, I don't want to just duplicate questions, that's all. So if I'm kind of stumbling on them, it's just because I'm reading them and just get an idea of whether they've been read or not. Lewis, chasing a 40-point deficit. Okay, this is big. Richarlison to Tony locked in. But I'm now thinking of Maddison/Mount for Saka/Zaha or Sessegnon for cash. All these are -4. Thanks. Hope you can hold on to your right. Thank you very much, Lewis. And hopefully you can claw back your points deficit. So, okay, if Richarlison to Tony's locked in, then I guess you don't think you've got enough of a transfer move there to get you that 40-point gap. So I think we really need to be upside chasing here. So I wouldn't be selling Saka. I think Saka has upside here to have a decent haul against Everton. So I would be holding Saka first and foremost. And I think between Mount and Maddison, I think Mount probably has the higher ceiling. So I think Mount is probably the route to go for. Now, Cash Sessegnon, I think I'd probably be wanting to chase the midfielder in Mason Mount. So on that premise, I'd probably say to you, I would do Zaha to Mount if you really want to chase it and hope for the upside in the Chelsea man. Here's my team. Took a -4 already. Schmeichel, James, Trent, Cancelo, Son, Saka, Odegaard, Gordon, Foden, Kane, Weghorst. Like it. I don't think there's enough of a reason there for you to go for another -4. The only thing I would say is if your bench is really not there, Weghorst, we know's game time is probably going to be very minimal. On that sort of idea, I think you could maybe justify another points hit and do Weghorst to someone like Tony, but I really am not big on it. It's all about if you have the bench to cover potentially Weghorst not featuring. Alvin, you've mentioned your squad. Is this squad okay since I've already used all chips and free transfers? So you've got Trent, James, Alonso, Emerson Royale, Mitchell, Havertz, Saka, Maddison, Vardy, Pukki. Like it. I don't mind it at all. I don't think you need to necessarily make a points hit to upgrade any other areas in that team. Body by Duff. Good man, Nacho. Good stuff from you and the gang this year. Thank you very much, buddy, and for tuning in. Really appreciate it. What to do with Saka? Absolutely would keep Saka, guys. Now, I don't think necessarily his projected points are through the roof. It's worth mentioning if we come here to the projected points for Saka. Look, 5 projected points for a midfielder. When we are comparing that to other midfielders this game week, there's only Mane, Havertz, Mount, Son and KDB that are above him. I would say Of course, Mane, Son and Kevin De Bruyne come into the premium midfielder rank, so I wouldn't be comparing him to them. So the only two above him is Mount and Havertz, and they're only ahead by 0.3 and 0.6 respectively. So I don't think there's any upside to selling Saka to any other midfielder. I would absolutely hold him. I think he has great potential this game week, so I would be sticking with him if you have him already for sure. Christopher is saying, Callum Wilson. Yes, I do like Callum Wilson as an option. Now, would I be considering Callum Wilson as an option going into this game week? I think I'd probably still prefer Tony. Now, I don't believe our algorithm is necessarily going to be massively in the favour of Callum Wilson just because of his injury recently. And the underlying stats isn't necessarily generating the most projected points for him. If I was looking at Wilson right now, it's only 2.7. So just to remind ourselves, Wilson does have in his final game week Burnley away, who have absolutely everything to play for. But Newcastle coming into it with so much motivation and, you know, real purpose in their play right now. So I think the Wilson option that you're going for is going to be very much all about what you've seen in the eye test. I think he is looking brilliant right now. So our underlying stats and our algorithm isn't really going to help you in your decision making. I still would probably just prefer Tony. I think you're getting guaranteed penalties there and a really good fixture at home to Leeds with, as I mentioned, real motivation for them off the back of the championship campaign that they had, that little rivalry. So I prefer Tony, but Callum Wilson is not a bad punt if you're going off the eye test, and someone that we absolutely need to have on our radar next season, because if Callum Wilson, he historically will get injured next season. I'm telling you right now, if you haven't owned him, he will get injured, but he is a phenomenal FPL asset. And if he does remain the number one forward in this Newcastle team, I think he could be one of the best forwards in the game next year. Quote me on that and call me out next season, guys. Eddie, thanks, Nacho. Great advice. Thank you very much. Daniel, thank you, buddy. Frankie Smokes, what a name. Hey, Nacho, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you. I'm trying to break into the top 50k. Who would be your best Salah replacement? Well, Frankie, I think the number one replacement for me is still going to remain Son. Now, our projected points do just favour Kevin De Bruyne, but I am just personally in the favour of Son. I think the fixture is much better. I think Son is obviously going for that top golden boot. So I think Son and put the captaincy on him is probably the route that I would consider. Again, I don't know your squad to give you a real detailed analysis on that one there. And again, guys, we're on 48 likes. If there's 2 of you on this live stream and you haven't dropped it a like, please do give it a like. We always try to hit 50 likes, and I don't think we have been disappointed a single live stream. So can only give you guys massive props for keeping up the tradition on this live stream. Right. -8 for Sessegnon, Kane, Mount from Cancelo, Zaha and Richarlison. Now, I am not big on the Cancelo move personally. I think there's a real opportunity for him to have a big haul this game week, so I wouldn't be looking to move out Cancelo. Now, Zaha and Richarlison, I think obviously with your Cancelo move, it means that you can afford Kane. So it's all about how you kind of perceive Kane as an option, but I really do, I think almost just doing Richarlison to Tony is as good of a move. You have to remember here that a -8 is a real big hit for your team. So we need to think what we're expecting here from these returns. Now, I do think Sessegnon and Kane Mount could have phenomenal game weeks, but I think Cancelo could equally rack up an 8-pointer there. So that is going to probably match or better someone like Sessegnon first and foremost. And then you need Kane and Mason Mount to really go to town to outscore someone like Zaha and Richarlison. So if you're really chasing, I don't mind the -8. I think they're probably the best crop of players for you to bring in. But otherwise, if you don't want to do the points hit move, I think just an easy move from Richarlison to someone like Tony could equally have net a similar return for you. But if you're chasing, mate, crack on. I don't mind it at all. Ice Cold Jones, always love this name, and I hasn't gone unnoticed that you've been a regular viewer, so I appreciate it. Is putting Tony and Bowen a good idea to replace Richarlison and Kante? So for a -4, I don't mind that move. I think you're bringing in some good upside into your team. Kante really isn't an FPL option going forward, and I probably would recommend that for future seasons. He just isn't a viable option. I'd much rather you just go down to a 4.4 million in future seasons, but that's again learnings that we take into each game week and season. So yes, I do like those moves. Again, I don't know your squad fully, But I think you're bringing in some good upside in your team there for sure. Should I move Cash and Digne out? I wouldn't necessarily move both. I'd probably look to move one out and maybe move to someone like Sessegnon. I don't think you need to shift both out for you there. Right, guys. And again, guys, if there's any hot topics you want me to cover, drop them in. I will try and build that in the Fantasy Football Fix tools here because it's such a brilliant website. If you guys haven't checked it out already, again, we do these live streams, we chat. I think we take the tools for granted a little bit. I really do urge you guys going into the new season just to check out the free trial that we do offer. It's free 7-day trial. You get access to all the premium tools available, and it is a brilliant way for you just to see whether it's something that you would enjoy or not. Again, the live stream is going to continue next season, so it's a great chance for you to have a peek behind the curtain. But honestly, guys, it really doesn't do it justice enough for me to say that this is only scratching the surface of what is available. And I know there's some amazing tools dropping next year that I've had an opportunity to check out, and there's some great stuff in the pipeline. So again, live stream is going to continue, obviously, but if you do want to get a free trial, check out next season in the preseason campaign. A brilliant time of any to check out what is available to you, because I know it's definitely helped me as a manager this season for sure. Right, Brian, Mount, Saka, Bowen, -2 best picks. -2 best picks. I'm not sure there, but the way I'd rank them there, I would say Mount 1, Saka 2, Bowen 3. Mexi, you must have the best rank of all Fantasy Football Fix workers. Now, Mexi, you know, I don't want to gloat or anything, but we do have a mini league and I am top of it. I'm just going to put it out there. But there are some unbelievable managers in the Fantasy Football Fix community, and it is worth me mentioning that there has been some unbelievable luck on my side to get this rank right now, and the season hasn't finished, so I'm not going to count my chickens anytime soon right now. There's still a lot of the way to go as we speak. Now, apologies if I got this wrong. Diago, best Ings replacement. Yes, I think Ings is probably an easy sideways move, and I'm going to beat the same drum. I think Tony is still the best replacement in that price range. DJ Hammer, fellow Chelsea fan. It's been a tough season, mate. It's been a tough season, but we stick by our boys through thick and thin. Colm, hope you're doing well. On a free hit this week, is it better to keep Alonso, maybe not play, or downgrade him and bring in Tony? I think if you don't have Sessegnon right now, again, I'm like a broken record right now, I think you could go down to him, and then you could free up funds elsewhere to upgrade your free hit team. Tony, I really do like, and I think if you are worried about Alonso's game time, I think you go down that forward option in Tony. Penalties, guaranteed game time, motivation there for them. I'd probably go down that route personally. Snazzy Viking, great name. Is Jesus worth a punt? Is he worth a punt? I really think this is one of those moves that if you are in a position where your rank doesn't really mean too much now to you, and you're happy for your rank to go 50k red or 50k green, then I don't mind that move. But I think Jesus really fits in that bracket where I wouldn't be personally taking that risk as we speak. Daniel, thoughts on my team? Who should I transfer in and who should I start? One free transfer. Schmeichel, Dubravka, Trent, James, Rudiger, Cancelo, Laporte, Salah, Saka, Mount, Foden, Maddison, Nketiah, Pukki, Weghorst. Well, if you have one free transfer, the glaring transfer there is the lack of Spurs ownership. So I would absolutely go Mo Salah to Son, and then I would start a team of, for example, Schmeichel in goal, Trent, James, Rudiger, Cancelo, and Laporte. I'd probably play all five of them, to be honest with you. I'll then have Son, Saka, Mount, and Foden with Maddison. And have I counted too many there? No, I would go for a 5-4-1 formation with Salah, Saka, Son, Saka, Mount. Oh my God, you got too many. You got too many, buddy. You got way too many good players in there, but your front line is obviously woeful. Nketiah has to start in the front line. You need Spurs ownership. So although it's going to break you, I think you need to do Salah to Son, and then do Son, Saka, Mount, and Foden, and bench Maddison, and pray it doesn't go big. Otherwise, the other alternative is that you go for Trent, James, Cancelo, and Laporte. Put Rudiger on your bench, and then you go for a midfield 5. Hopefully that helps you out there, buddy. Andy, Diaz and Kane or Son and Vardy? Cheers, mate. So I would probably go for the Diaz and Kane route. Only just though, Andy. And again, have to remember that these are real fine margins, these decisions. And do not be surprised, Andy. And again, this is going to be something that we're going to be incorporating next season if I do continue these live streams, fingers crossed, is the mindset of the game a little bit. FPL Raptor, one of our content creators on the channel, is very good at this kind of psychology of things. And I think this is a perfect example here, Andy, of where we've seen so many major swings in FPL. And a lot of managers have been on the right side of them and you've been on the wrong side of them. When we come to this decision-making process, we need to understand that there's very, very little in them. But the outcome can be absolutely monstrous. We've seen it where we could have the Diaz and Kane combo score 30 points and the Son and Vardy combo score you 8 points. And the variance between the two doesn't justify the transfer that you made. So just be cautious of that. Have that mindset going into next season. That's a tip for everybody, really. But I would go for Diaz and Kane are the two. John King, hello, mate. Hell of a Southwest accent there. Yes, I definitely have been told that more in this live stream. We've got to definitely embrace it. Whereabouts are you? Gloucestershire-based. Gloucestershire-based, John. And you're in Exeter. Okay, so not too far. Not too far at all. Drive by through that way to Yeovil sometimes, or that sort of direction. Also looking to go for a -8. Diaz, Salah and Broha out. Sessegnon, Foden / Diaz and Vardy in. Thoughts? Okay, so again, I'm not big on -8s. However, you're selling a player in Diaz that's guaranteed out. Mo Salah, which we are saying could be out. And Broho's game time is barely minimal. So while I hate a -8, if your bench is dead as well, which is the assumption right now, you're basically saying that you're going to get 0-0-0 or 0-0-1. And then you're bringing in players who are going to have minimum 2 points. So you're basically getting rid of 3 who are going to get 0. And you're going to bring in 3 that are going to get a minimum of 6. So you minus the 8. You're basically only taking a -2 hit. Hope that makes sense there. So I don't think there's a massive problem with that -8 there if you are selling effectively 3 players that are not even going to feature this game week. Just try to catch up with the comments, guys. Apologies. I will get to all the comments because I appreciate it's the last game week of the season. Body by Duff, thinking of selling Zaha for Sterling this week and playing a 4-5-1. Again, I really don't want to be the one to tell you not to go for Sterling because he could absolutely be one of those players that is the, whatever they call it now, king of the game week, and he goes absolutely mega. I just think it's not the route for me personally, looking at it. Like, if you're going Zaha to Sterling, it obviously means that you have plenty of money in the bank. And I'm looking at your team right now, and I think I'd much rather go for Kevin De Bruyne if you can afford it. I just think Sterling's a bit of a risk right now, personally. But again, if you're in that position, I cannot knock you going that route. Again, it's all about enjoying the game. And if Sterling brings that joy to you and that punt and that excitement, then absolutely go for it. Calm, yeah, absolutely. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. And I appreciate I haven't really left it on well, I've left it on a decent screen for you, the algorithm points, but because this is the last live stream, we've covered a lot of topics right now, and I feel like the Q&A is probably the most beneficial to you guys for this game week. So hopefully the Q&A is helping you guys out, and we'll use the tools where we can throughout, of course. Right, is there a case of KDB over Son? Absolutely. We can see on our projected points here that KDB is actually above Son, so absolutely KDB should be right up there in our discussion for a Salah replacement. But I just like Son because of the upside in that Norwich game personally. Playing my first FPL season, got involved on Twitter, and since you are playing for years, do you think we'll get a lot of team news pre-game week 38 deadline since all games start at the same time? Yes, so for those that played, obviously years gone by, the deadline used to be an hour before, and we were getting so many team reveals. It was like a kid in the candy shop. We had so much information to play with. If there's ever going to be team reveal, it likely is going to be ahead of game week 38. Now, there are some solid accounts out there which we can back, but you need to make sure that you have real concrete evidence that the team that they are leaking is potentially the one that is going to be played. So yes, keep an eye on Twitter. There absolutely could be some team leaks, but make sure that they are trusted sources for you. But Ref, is Kane and Son essential for a -8 hit? Again, it's all about who you're selling. I think that they are very, very, very great options this game week, but not necessarily worth a -8 if you're selling, for example, KDB and Tony, for example. Would you bring in Mane and Son for Salah and Mahrez? Felix, I would definitely do Son for Salah. I don't think I would necessarily do Mahrez for Mane as we speak. I think Mahrez could be a great upside pick. But if you are really worried about Mahrez's game time, then yes, I think you could make that move. And Mane and Son are brilliant alternatives. I do not disagree at all. I don't think Man City's having a clean sheet. Yeah, there could be a chance that Villa hit them on the counter. They have the players like Watkins that can cause big damage to them, but I can only see a Man City win, and a clean sheet with the way that Villa are playing right now, I don't think is unheard of. Who to pick from Diaz, Foden, or Mahrez? I think the choice that I would go for there is probably Foden. Probably just Foden. However, looking at our projected points here, we can see that Phil Foden is projected to score 3.6 points and Diaz is projected to score 2.7. So Foden wins it in the projected points as well. So, you know, I probably will just go for Phil Foden there. Again, best Ings replacement. As I mentioned, I think Tony is right up there as the best alternative. Andre, if Man City get Stones and Walkabout, I think at home with the Prem on the line, they will keep a clean sheet. I agree that, Andre, I do think that a clean sheet is a real potential this game week. And those that are doubled up, I think there's great opportunity there. Maddison, Foden, Diaz, pick one. I think I would go for Foden of the three. Brian, on free hit, thinking about doubling up on Chelsea, Alonso / James, and ignoring City defenders as Villas might score on them. Your thoughts? Okay, so the one thing I would say about that is I think the City defenders are a bit more easier to predict. I think Cancelo and Laporte are absolutely locked in for game time. We've seen in Tuchel's press conference that there is a chance that he is going to be bringing game time to those players that haven't really seen it this season. So we're kind of, while Chelsea have the better fixture, there's definitely a chance that we could see Saul deployed at the left wing-back position. We could see Loftus-Cheek operated at the right wing-back position, Azpilicueta at the right wing-back position. So I absolutely don't doubt that Chelsea have the better opportunity of a clean sheet and likely attack and returns from their defensive options. But I think also the risk of rotation for them is definitely there as well as we speak. I want a City midfielder. Do I go Foden? Can't afford KDB or Sterling? Yes, I do think Foden is a good option for you, absolutely. If you can't afford KDB or Sterling, I think Foden's game time is going to be the most locked of any player outside of KDB from an FPL perspective. Do you think James will start? Very difficult for me to predict, but I think we're in a position right now where if you own, you absolutely just stick with him. You don't need to sell. Jim, Alonso, James, Robbo and Trent, too much of a risk, or will they start since it's their last hurrah? Again, Alonso is the one that I would be worried about right now. I don't think necessarily we're guaranteed that he is going to start. So I like James, I like Robertson, I like Trent. Absolutely, they definitely will start. So I'm sure on that one, just Alonso is the one I'll be worried about as we speak. Mohammed saying Kane for Richarlison and Mount for Salah for -4. Yes, I think if we get confirmation that Richarlison is out, he was hobbling, I like the -4 move. But again, not huge on -4s if we do get confirmation that Salah and Richarlison are starting. Right, guys, we have been going for about an hour 10, and I think we're in a position where we might need to conclude this. Apologies for those that haven't answered their questions. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. I think a lot of these are very similar. Bringing Kane or KDB, John, it's going to be all about who you're selling. I probably would prioritise Kane just because of that game that they have is phenomenal on paper. Jack saying about Mount or Bowen to replace Zaha. I would go for Mount of the two. We'll take a -4 to get Tony and Luis Diaz over Richarlison. No, I think I would do a sideways move. I would get Mount. I think that's probably the route I would go for. We'll have a start. Unfortunately, I don't have that information. We need to keep an eye on the clock there in terms of any information that gets leaked. Rio saying, here's my team. Schmeichel, Session, Alonso, James, Trent, Son, Mount, Maddison, Foden, Saka, Kane, sub Richarlison. Is it worth a -4 to Richarlison with Tony, bench Alonso? I don't think you necessarily need to make that move. I don't think the -4 is going to pay much dividends for you. I'll roll with that team. You know you got Richarlison on the bench, and then you got cash to come on if not. Brian, is Mount most likely to get rotated too? My assumption is Mount was benched in game week 37. So from that premise, I think that he does start this game week. And who's the best replacement for Watkins? For me, if you want to sell him, then it's probably going to be Tony. So guys, I think that is going to wrap up today's live stream and the last live stream of the active season. So it's been amazing this season, guys, to kind of get this live stream going around the Christmas time. A lot of names in this live stream right now have been common names that have been dropping in each and every live stream. So I just want to say a massive thank you for you supporting the channel, supporting myself in these live streams. It's been brilliant to have you guys in The numbers have been really, really good in a market where they're so saturated with FPL content. Hopefully, our channel has provided that little bit different with the combination of the Fantasy Football Fix website with the stats, the insights, alongside some personal opinion. Hopefully, that's giving you guys a little bit different to what's out there right now in the market. And again, can only thank you guys for tuning into the live streams week in, week out. Of course, this isn't going to be the end. We'd love to say what the schedule is going forward, but unfortunately, we haven't decided on that going forward. So the best thing you guys can do, even though it's coming to the end of the season, is drop a like on the video, and importantly, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already on the channel, and that notification bell, because we will not be off the channel for long. I'm sure we're going to have preseason work coming out, absolutely. May even an end of season wrap up. So important to hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss a single thing going forward. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. And if you can leave a like on the way out, it'll be much appreciated. Have a great game week. Hopefully, green arrows, and we will talk very, very soon. Take care. Cheers.